Jaden, are you using first gear anywhere?
Turn 5, I think. The slow left.
Okay.
Hairpin thingy. Where do you see the track grip on LMU?
Pardon me?
Where do you see the track? Oh, you don't.
Nope.
Just that there.
Mr. Charles, you're bad driving, man. Jano.
I think Steve, I forgot to tell me, is it split qualifying?
Yeah, I was just about to ask. Is it split qualifying?
I don't know. I am in the truck.
Watch with 15 minutes, I know that. He needs to do solo. 45 minutes.
Yeah, because I've never done qualifying with like people on the track, so it's kind of chill.
But it is share qualifying, right? We can go on the track all. Okay.
Wait, can you repeat? Do hypercars need to get off?
Nope.
All right, thank you.
I'll be back. I gotta close out enemy.
Ok, vale.
Ultimate Sprint Series here as we visit the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix Circuit, Italy, or commonly known as the Imola Circuit. They are racing there in Formula 1 this weekend, so definitely looking forward to seeing what these GT3 cars can do, as Michelle Wallace tops the GT3 classes right now, 145.65. Plus there, P2, 146.295. So we're right along board with him. We haven't seen much of him here. We're still learning as much as we can with the overlays and streaming as we prepare for our endurance series that is coming up in the next few, well, next month. We are aiming at the end of June, the beginning of July to start the endurance series. Still waiting on the updates for the liveries so that we can get our sponsors fully on board. Right now we are riding along board with Mr. Massive himself, testing out his WEC. Should have been a smooth qualifying, but this evening it is a single qualifying session. But we'll get this done already and updated for next week. Hopefully that didn't throw up Mr. Massive too far off. He comes around the final corner now, the final stretch. Didn't look extremely rapid there in sector 2. But still has some time to go. Qualifying session, so as we continue to ride along board with him, he's not improved but still doing what he can. But as we ride along board with him, let's switch to Mr. So yeah, Lance here again is catching up to me. Oh, and that was his run, and now he's gonna have to back up. That's not ideal. But must have come off the racing line, which is Lance off a little bit. Some yellow flags there. Is that Mr. Daniel Beloza? Testing audio. Yeah, we still are working out the bugs here. Still learning as much as possible to try and give you, the audience, the best product that we can possibly give. Typically on a Assetto Corsa or Assetto Corsa Competizione, but there, even with that slight slowdown with Mr. Massive there, heading out of turn 1. Ian Lance still puts up a time, only a 10th off of Mr. Harrison in front of him, so Ian definitely finding some pace here this evening. Looking forward to seeing what he can do here. He's always one of those rapid drivers that could always throw some drama in the mix, but right now the two are a 10th clear of each other. The cars behind are 1.5 and 1.8 seconds behind each other. Mikhail Charles still yet to set a qualifying lap, but even now in Sector 1, 28.087 is his fastest lap. The fastest lap on the server for the LMDH cars are 26.541, 26.549. So, Mr. Charles, you have quite some work to do, but to ride along board, Mr. De Silva of GT Panama sits in P2 in the GT3 class, looking very rapid. He's a 10th clear off Mission Wallace on that last lap. It's about 4/10 off in the best lap so far. Kurt Moss, 2/10 off of Mr. De Silva. So right now, Mission Wallace leads the GT3 classes, followed by GT Panama driver Vincent De Silva, our good friend over at GT Panama. Kurt Moss in P3, Ricardo Swaby in P4, Javier Brandao in P5. Matty Titus in P6, Rich Dyer in P7, and Joel Santamaria in P8. Mikhail Charles finally puts a time on the board. His best being 2 seconds off the pace, but you know he is one that will definitely find the pace in the latter stages. Right now, Jaden Harrison with the fastest time with a 131.900, 132.084, 10th clear. Mr. Gagamel Ital, which is Mr. Ian Lance himself. Definitely the two that brought us the most action last week, so looking forward to seeing what they can do. Kurt Moss in the pits. Ricardo Swaby heads out as well, 1.5 minutes remaining. Javier Brandao still out there as we see Daniel Velez there coming around. Again, next week we'll definitely have split qualifying, or private qualifying, my apologies. I forgot to press the button there, but still learning the ins and outs of Le Mans Ultimate. This is week 2. Looking forward to continue to improve to give you guys the best product that we can possibly give. 1 minute remains in this qualifying session. We're 45 minutes on the way. Javier there pulling to the side, which does as well. And pushing the ins and outs of that McLaren. He and Ricardo Swaby have a little rivalry brewing from last week's event. So look forward to seeing what they can do. But there's a little buffer between Rich and Ricardo right now. Ricardo looking very good. 146.884. Only 1.2 seconds off of pole position for the GT3 class. So that's going to be fun to watch. Mikhail Charles, in the time that we've been talking again, he was 2 seconds off. He's now only 3/10, 2.5 tenths behind pole sitter in Jaden Harrison, and only about 1/10 off of Mr. Ital in P2. So right now, Mikhail Charles definitely finding the pace to see where he can throw a little bit of drama here in that Ferrari. Right now, looking forward to seeing how this grid is actually shaping up. We have a Toyota, Ferrari. We have 2 Toyotas in the top 2. One Cadillac, and the other LMDH being Daniel Velez in that Toyota has already made his way into the pit. So right now, Mikhail Charles, my apologies, finishing up this final lap. It's gonna be a race to enjoy. Next few moments, but 1 second down in Sector 2. He was a 10th up in Sector 1, so he's definitely finding some pace here. Looking forward to seeing what he can bring. Huge shout out to GT Panama in the chat. Excited to have you guys here. Our good friends, good rivals, good everything basically, as Mikhail Charles heads into the pits. Bring his qualifying session to an end. Mission Wallace, Vincent De Silva, Kurt Moss are the top 3. Matthew Titus did leave his time on the board. Now sits in P4 in the GT3 class to overtake Mr. Swaby. Javier Brandao. So 1 more position closer between Rich and Ricky. Joe Santamario. Few seconds off. I think that's about 2 seconds off. So he is definitely going to be trying to improve. Matthew Titus now comes around the final corner. Will he improve? Does slightly improve, but not enough to move up in position. And as we've been speaking, Mr. Eitel there moves up into P1 to take pole position away from Jaden Harrison. So, Ian Lance leads the LMDH class with a 131.272, 7/10 clear of Jaden Harrison. Mikhail Charles sits in P3, Daniel Velez in P4, and Raven Plummer in P5. Michelle Wallace sits in P1 of the GT3 class, Vincent De Silva in P2. Kurt Moss sits in P3. All separate, well, P1 and P2 separated by a 10th. 5/10 between P3 and P1. Matthew Titus, 5/10 between P3 and P4. A 10th between Ricardo and Matthew Titus. Javier, Rich, and Joel. 3/10 all the way down to a second. And we're about to go racing, ladies and gentlemen, between... Right now, Mr. Ian Lance sits on top of the field. Looking forward to seeing what he can do. And as a matter of fact, we have the opportunity. Let's try out the starting grid. As you see there, Mr. Eitel in P1, Jane Harrison P2, Mikhail Charles in Ferrari in P3, Daniel Velez in P4. And to round out the LMDHs is Miss Raven Plummer in P5. Mission Wallace leads the GT3 class with that BMW. Vincent De Silva and Kurt Moss, P2 and P3. Matthew Titus and Ricky Swaby coming up next. Then Javier Brandao and Rich Dio. Again, these are the new overlays that we're trying to test out. And to round out the grid in 13th is Mr. Santamaria. Looking forward to seeing what can come here in the next few stages. Very excited, as a matter of fact, to see what can happen. But ladies and gentlemen, we're about to go racing.
Formation lap has started.
And the formation lap has begun. Right now, the racers, I'm hearing them in the chat, just preparing themselves for racing. And so we see the Lido. Sorry, I don't like, not that I don't like to call him Mr. Eitel, but his name that I know him as is Mr. Ian Lance, who will be leading this pack away. We are under rolling start conditions. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be fun. As racers come around. Very final bend. Should be going racing in only a moment's time. See the difference between the LMDH and the GT3. It is now green flag racing. Daniel Velez takes a look on the inside. Mikhail Charles there touches the grass and it was pushed wide a little bit. Jaden Harrison there sits in the slipstream of Mr. Eitel there to see where he can gain an advantage. Raven Plummer sits down in P5. But the battle now is between these four. And who is that? That was Daniel Velez, who did go off track. Rejoins in a way that is side by side with Mr. Daniel Velez and Mr. Mikhail Charles. Raven Plummer just looking in the background, and there goes Daniel going very drifty. And that looked very nerve-wracking. As a matter of fact, right behind them is Mr. Mission Wallace. Kurt Moss did take the move from Vincent De Silva. Vincent is now in P3. Matthew Titus there sitting down in P4. He did not lose any positions. He and Javier Brandao now fighting it out with Ricardo Swaby right there in the foreground. He did lose a position to Mr. Javier Brandao, so he has some work to do. But right now it's Michelle Wallace from Kurt Moss, from Vincent De Silva, from Matthew Titus, from Javier Brandao, from Ricardo Swaby to Joel Santamario. Rich Dyer being the biggest loser out of everybody now, dropping down. Well, no, my apologies. Yes, Joel did start in last position, so Rich is the one who has fallen back, but still the race has just begun with 43 minutes remaining. The race has just begun, so looking forward to seeing what can come. But as we saw last week, the fight was between these two. Mikhail Charles there sits right there behind, watching in the background. Daniel Velez he's having a torrid time from the start of this race. Not sure if it's a bad setup or what, but he's now finding himself in the grass. GT3 cars should be coming up. Right there he goes, Mission Wallace. Quick overtake done, and Daniel not having the best race here this evening. But we'll have some work here to do. But as we speak of I was going to say the devil, but no. As we speak of the Ferrari there sitting right there in slipstream. Now, he's one that's going to throw a little bit of drama here because he came late, has shown some pace. Looking forward to seeing what he can do. But these are the three. Raven Plummer is in the pits, as well as Daniel Velez. So not sure what had happened there. As Raven drive through the pits now. Maybe got a drive-through penalty. Not sure what had happened there, but we'll check back on that. In the time that we've gone, Mr. Charles there is now a 3-second gap between himself and the drivers in front of him in Ian Lance and Jaden Harrison. So we'll check back at that in a moment's time. But right now, Vincent catching back up to the rear end of that BMW, driven by Kurt Moss, Mr. Mossive himself. Javier Brandao right there in the slipstream of Mr. Matthew Titus. He hasn't given up either. Javier, we've seen in the past, very rapid driver. One of the fastest over there in GT Panama. So looking forward to seeing what he can bring in these moments. Rich Dad there right in the rear view as well of Mr. Joel Santamara, who's made up 2 positions since the start of this race. Ricardo Swaby has fallen back. I'm sure that's not what he would have wanted to see, but right now Ricardo sits in P11 as the other 2 drivers, and Daniel and Raven now exiting the pit, so it's going to be unfortunate for them. But well, that continues. We watch along board now as the trio between Ricardo Swaby, Rich Dyer, and Joel Santamara will be now fighting it out for these points positions. It's right along board with them. Guess what? Vincent has caught up to the rear end in that Corvette to the back end of that BMW driven by Mr. Massive himself. And looking very rapid, if I do say so myself. Vincent looking like he wants to take a charge to see if he can get a go at the top step of the podium, as he now is 3/10 behind the likes of Mr. Massive. Michelle only 7/10 clear of Mr. Massive himself. So this is going to be the battle to watch for now. The battle between Mr. Lance is still on the way. He's now 3/10 off of Mr. Harrison. But these two, just like we saw last week, they will not give each other an inch. It was just due to one running off of the track by Mr. Lance that caused him to lose out. They had some overtaking done. It was, what a battle it was, as a matter of fact. Looking forward to seeing what they can bring back for this week. Eon there, not rushing at all. He's taking his time, buying his time, maybe building up a strategy in his mind to see where he can gain an advantage on the driver ahead. We know Eon, he was about 7/10 clear of Mr. Harrison. But Mr. Harrison not doing the best qualifying sessions, but doing some really good race pace. He's been the one to do it in the past, especially in our Caribbean Touring Car Championship. So definitely we'll be looking forward to seeing what he can do here this evening. Eon looking on the outside. And is this battle bringing Mikhail Charles back into the mix? He's now slightly under 3 seconds, but still not close enough to the battle to get very engrossed in this battle. So yeah, we'll continue to ride along board and watch what happens there. Gap between the two is about 0.6 of a second, so this is going to be fun to watch. But while they battle it out, we'll get some overtaking here between Raven Plummer moving through the GT3 cars. You don't really want to get in the midst of their battle, especially if you're unlapping yourself, but I think she's just using this time as a moment to get some practice. She literally bought this game just to race in the series, so always excited, always appreciative of us and our drivers here at the JSRA as Raven clears the field of the GT3, the top 3, and is now back on the way to catch back up to the drivers ahead of her. Raven Plummer. Again, these are not necessarily, they are important just mainly for practice. to prepare us for the endurance series coming up. Not just the drivers, but even myself to get used to this whole new streaming platform, which, if I do say so myself, I absolutely love it. But still, it does take a lot of work to understand the intricacies of it. Ricardo Swaby there in the rear end of Richard Dial. He's taking a look to see where he can pounce on the driver ahead. He is driving that Ferrari. Chasing down at McLaren, looking if he can see a place for a move. Ricardo, one of the drivers that, I do say so myself, improves on a weekly basis. Excuse me, my apologies. Right now, Vincent De Silva looks on the inside of Mr. Massive there. Not doing too much racing yet, but these are the drivers that will continue to ride along with, because they are enjoying themselves out here tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Last week it was well, as a matter of fact, Kurt Moss had a dominant stance until he lost control of his motor vehicle, his race car, and Mission Wallace capitalized on it, overtook him, did not do 1 foot or put 1 foot wrong, and held out until the end, winning by about 7 seconds to the cars behind. An epic drive by him. But right now we have Vincent De Silva, and he is on the rear end. He is one of GT Panama leaders and one of our close friends here at the JSRA. He is one of the more rapid drivers as well. Seems to really enjoy this game as well. So looking to see what he can do here in the mix as he chases down the likes of Kurt Moss and Mission Wallace. No need to rush. Seeing his teammate there right there in the background in Javier Brandao, so he's catching up slightly as well, as you see him coming around in that BMW M4 GT3. So he's gonna definitely be one that we'll look forward to seeing make some moves. Maybe if he can close that gap, 4 seconds now between himself and his teammate Vincent De Silva. But right now, Ricardo Swaby still chasing down at McLaren. Has some work to do, but still, it's a long race. It's always mentioned you cannot win the race in turn 1, but you can definitely lose it, as we've noticed the drivers are taking their time, picking their points of attack. Still just maintaining that gap. Matthew Titus there looks as if he lost out a little bit. He's now 1.6 seconds off of Ricardo, so Matthew has some work to do. Right now, Vincent De Silva is hounding the rear end of that Jamaican BMW M4, trying to force a mistake where he can, when he can. Kurt Master, one of our more experienced drivers, does not fall under pressure. Looking forward to seeing what can be done here. But for now, this is the battle that we will be looking on to. Not necessarily going extreme defense, but has to be covering off Vince. It does give some room to Miss Shen to kind of break away a little bit now, extending his gap to 1.4 seconds, which is the biggest gap of the race so far. So as these drivers are fighting it out, there goes Vince going off track for a second there. But as these drivers are fighting it out, Mission enjoying this as his moment to get away as quickly as possible. Still, ladies and gentlemen, just playing around with these overlays, and if I do say so myself, I absolutely love them. They're absolutely epic to get the WEC look here as we are getting the telemetry from Mr. Vince, who is hunting down the likes of Mr. Kurt Master in front, getting those blue flags, warnings. I believe that's Jaden Harrison, and right behind him is the LMDH cars. So this battle, you don't want to lose out too much too. As you see, Ian Lance there has to back out now, and then will go fast to try and go around now as he heads around Seeing those flashing lights, flashing lights, flashing lights. Kurt Moss now hopefully not being impeded too much, but this is multi-class racing and this is what we're trying to prepare for. So that when these drivers do end up beginning that endurance race, and there you see it now, has to be late on the turn-in is Michelle Wallace, goes a little bit wide now, and that does put Michael Charles back into the mix. He found himself there right as well, but 1.5 seconds is the gap between Kurt Moss and Mr. Wallace now, 1.4. So not too much time lost if we're being honest. But still, I'm sure they would have wanted a clean run through the field there. Vincent De Silva here just riding on. Sticking in that slipstream of the Jamaican driver in front of him. And this is just some really nice racing, if I do say so myself. It's just so epic. As you see the rear end of that BMW. Kurt Moss rotating that car to get out as quickly as possible. Still though, has to look in his rearview mirror. Late on the brakes is Mr. Vincent De Silva, who is just looking and trying to push that BMW through the corners. What a battle this has been. Vince not giving an inch to the driver in front of him, and this is what we love to see. 3/10 to gap between the two. As we just pull up, Mr. Velez there overtaking the likes of Ricardo and Joel Santamario in his LMDH car, just trying to get through the field as quickly as possible. Again, this could just be his practice session. It looked like he maybe had loaded the wrong setup, because he looks a lot cleaner now than he did earlier. But yeah, that being said, we just look forward to seeing what he as a driver can do, because he's such a rapid driver. Vincent just sitting in that slipstream, pulling on the Jamaican. And will he take a look on the inside? Yes, he does, but still not close enough. Kurt Moss just knows exactly where to put that car. 15 minutes elapsed so far. We have 30 minutes of racing remaining. Wowsies, what a battle this has been between these two. Hasn't given Mr. Massive a second to breathe here. But wow, we'll continue to watch to see what can happen as they continue their fight for victory here at the JSRA second round of the sprint series. I say so myself, I am more and more liking and enjoying this platform so much more. We are trying to build up our repertoire. We're trying to build up as many drivers as we possibly can get, especially leading up to the endurance series. So please, if you're in the chat and you're interested in joining, send us a message. We'd love to have you. We want a full grid of at least 40 drivers by the time the endurance series comes around. So the more, the absolute merrier. It's Vincent De Silva there still hunting down. Michelle has not put a foot wrong and is looking quite dominant. Almost 2 seconds clear of Mr. Massive in front of him. As we just take a look around at the field, and that Ferrari is Mr. Michael Charles, almost 6 seconds off of Ian Lance, and clearly some commentary curse there. As soon as we go on to him, he goes a little bit slidey. Ian Lance there still chasing down the likes of Jaden Harrison right there in front, almost 2 seconds in front. We'll just continue to ride along board with Mr. Wallace, Mr. Massive, and Mr. Da Silva, who still, ladies and gentlemen, are fighting it out for glory. Ricardo Suebi was chasing Rich Dial, now chases Matthew Titus. 4/10 to gap between them. Raven Plummer there, catching up at a rapid pace. And the Cadillac, one of my favorite to listen to see racing. She goes around the outside of Ricardo. Easy does it, no time lost between the two drivers. Goes around now for Matty Titus. Look a little bit squirrely there, but good time to meet up to these drivers as she'll be heading down into that chicane. Will she make it in time? Yes, she does. Not too much of a loss there for Mr. Santamario. He's still being chased by the likes of Matty Titus and Mr. Ricardo Suebi, who have 27 minutes remaining. Right now, this is a battle to look at as Matty Titus takes a look on the inside, goes for the dive. There's a little bit of contact, but not enough to cause any incident. And Matthew still has to work for that one. Ricardo Suebi now seeing an opportunity for himself to get into the mix as he looks on the outside of Matty Titus, who will be late on the brakes here. As they head down now, the run up into turn 1, and it's a trio of racers, 1 Ferrari, 2 BMWs, as we reach down into turn 1, turn 2, and Ricardo Suebi side by side makes a move on Matthew Titus. Matthew, though, not giving that one up, and Matthew will live to see another day as he sits in the slipstream now. Here's the fast left-hander into the right. Matthew backing out early to see if he can position that car for the next run up. There he goes, looking very good. Ricardo, though, does go slightly off track, and there's contact, and the 3 of them make contact, and there we go. Matthew Titus being one. That was drama at its best. Ricardo Suebi, it looks like Matthew is waiting on them to catch back up. Joel, where is he now? As Jaden and Mr. Ian Lance catch up to them as well. See what drama there is, and there goes Joel. It looks like he lost his rear wing and finds himself in careening to the wall there. Unfortunate for him. Vincent Da Silva just texted me while he's racing. Ooh, my apologies. That was not Vincent. That was Daniel Velez. My apologies there. So I was wondering how Vince was racing and texting at the same time. But while we've been watching all of this battling, Vince has fallen back to P4 behind his teammate. So that's unfortunate for him. It will be a break for Mr. Kurt Moss. But so much drama, so little time. Joel there without any rear wing. He will feel the effects of no downforce on that BMW. Ricardo there looks like he has damage as well, looking if he can get some fixes for his car. Matthew Titus is the one to get away from all of this. Right now it's Vince Da Silva chasing down the likes of his teammate in front of him. Javier Brandao sits in P3, final podium position. Kurt Moss has some work to do now to catch back up to Mission Wallace. Racing continuing for the moment, but unfortunate there. Daniel Velez being the first to not finish, the first retirement of the race. Joel Santamaria and Ricardo Suebi now sitting in the pits. Will they be the next? Hoping that they will stick it out to even fight each other. Right now, looking like they're doing the repairs themselves. Look forward as you see Ricardo there heading out. So glad to see them pushing on. Matthew Titus sits in P5. Vincent Da Silva chasing down his teammate in P4 and P3. The battle for the final podium position between the Corvette and that BMW M4. This is going to be the closest battle for now. Love to see what had happened there between Mr. Da Silva and how he fell back, because he was chasing for the entirety of this race, chasing down the likes of Mr. Massive. Looked very rapid, very clean. Unfortunately, has fallen back. Eon Lance as well. 4 seconds is the gap between himself and Jaden. So, not entirely sure there. Jaden catching up to Vince there. Overtakes on the outside. Easy does it. Vince has to back out slightly. Javier getting the better of the two because he got past on the exit. So, right now, Javier extends his gap between himself and Vince. It was 3/10. Now it is 8 between the two as they are coming around now. But yeah, Ian Lance there as well makes his way downtown to walk past so the silver. Again, Vince gets caught at the wrong time. Mikhail Charles there in the foreground, or the background, my apologies. See him there in that Ferrari. Using those curbs. Flash, flash, flash. LMDH on the way is Mr. Mikhail Charles. He overtakes to try and keep up. 7 seconds of gap between Mikhail and his friends in front of him in Eon Lance and Jaden. But still, he came in without any practice. Don't know when last he's actually done some racing here on this platforms, so he is definitely a rapid driver to see what he can do in the future in these races. We haven't seen him in quite some time, but happy to have him on board. That being said, 1.4 seconds is the gap between Mr. De Silva and Javier Brandao. Kurt Moss though, almost 4 seconds between himself and Michelle Wallace. So Michelle is just having such a clean race to just keep out the trouble. Avoid any of the dramas here, and just having a very dominant race, if I do say so myself. Javier Brandao there right behind Mr. Massive. And still, ladies and gentlemen, just testing out the features of the stream as we ride along board with Vince De Silva, who is just looking down the backstretch with his piercing eyes in that Corvette, just looking where he can make his move as I head down now to the final corners of this track. Now, will he get a good run as he chases his countryman and his teammate? 4/10 is the gap. he is just doing what he can do here this evening. He's been enjoying himself, if I do say so myself. 18 minutes remaining. And as we look through the mid-race, results so far, this is so, again, ladies and gentlemen, excuse my ignorance. I am still very much so learning about what the different features are of this platform, but as we go along, as we get better and better, we're just learning and seeing what different features we have. I'm just enjoying it at this point to see what can be done as we prepare for endurance series coming up in the next few months. Should see the grid building up more and more as you see Mr. Da Silva there just honing the rear end of that BMW. Is he looking to see if he can make a move? He did take a quick peek. Still not close enough, but still doing his best to see where he can gain that advantage on the drivers in front. And he is just not giving an inch. He did this with Kurt Moss. Took his absolute time to make the move stick. Not rushing it, but as time does go down, you have to start wondering and thinking, where am I going to make the move? And is this the moment? Vincent Da Silva heads down now into turn 1, and he is side by side with his countryman in Javier Brandao. Looks like he's made the move stuck, and there he goes on the outside. Inside, Gwent on the outside, back onto the racing line to continue. And this has been his move. Huge move. As we started to talk about it, as a matter of fact, Vince there looking for his opportunity to shine. Maybe listening in on the stream. We know he's one that definitely enjoys the gimmicks of racing. These two, their best lap time is separated by only 500th of a second. These two are fighting it out, or will continue to fight it out. But there goes Vince now extending that lead little by little. Ricardo Suevi, he and Gerald Santamaria are very far away from each other now because of that incident earlier on. So unfortunate to lose out on that battle. He was so good. Tears and cries. Definitely go through it in the post-race stewarding. But still, you know, you like to see the battling end from like how we just saw it with Javier and Vincent. Clean, competitive, hard-nosed, do what you need to do. But when you see incidents like that, your heart does go out a little bit as you see Mr. Charles there overtaking Matty Titus. That engaged car just looks absolutely stunning here at the Imola circuit. Drivers going twos through the corners. We'll definitely get some nice snapshots here. Ian Lance here chasing down the likes of Jaden Harrison. 3.5 seconds between himself and the Jamaican in front of him. 3.6 seconds on the stream. So we'll continue to watch this and see how it progresses as the racing continues. And ladies and gentlemen, we have about 10 minutes remaining. That 3.8 second gap between Jaden and Ian Lance has dwindled down to 1. Well, it was 1.5, now 1.8, 1.9. Saw Raven Plumber there in the grass. Not sure what had happened with her there. Maybe just coming off the track for the drivers behind him, but right now, Ian still chasing down the likes of Jaden. Only 1.8 seconds is the gap between them two. Has Ian found some pace here this evening? Let's take a look at the last lap time between the two. See if we can figure out what's happening. He would obviously update by the next lap. However, the last lap was separated by minus 1.1 second. Clearly, Jaden finding himself in some form of incident there for that gap to dwindle back, but still finds back the pace. Now it builds back that gap to about 2 seconds. This should be, don't want to say easy going because you know Ian is not one driver to give up. Gained about 3 tenths in that last sequence of corners there. Jaden gains it back. Again, this is going to be the battle to the end to watch for. 1.5 seconds is the gap between himself and the Jamaican in front of him. Ian Lance hunts down Mr. Jaden Harrison. We're right along board with him, as a matter of fact. Let's see if we can learn a thing or two from the Cayman driver. One of our good friends here at the JSRA. That gap is just dwindling lap after lap. 1.2 seconds now. Is Jaden Styles falling off? It's the case where he's just getting tired. With 8 minutes remaining, 131.489 has been the fastest lap of this race. Ian is definitely enjoying himself out there now. Has found his groove. And he's chasing down the likes of Jaden Harrison in front. 1.1 seconds is the gap. 8 minutes, 7.5 minutes remaining in this race. This race is not over by any means necessary. See Michaela and Raven now not necessarily fighting because Michaela is a lap ahead of Raven Plummer, but because of that whatever early incident that caused her to head into the pits. Jaden Harrison 131.627 being his fastest lap. 31.4 for the Cayman driver. Mikhail Charles has overtaken Raven Plummer. This is a battle, ladies and gentlemen, and as we lead up now to some blue flags. 6 minutes remaining. 1 second is the gap between the two. Jaden can't rush it now, and that will put Ian right in the midst of the battle. Caught him at the wrong time in Jaden Harrison. Rich Dyer now has to get out of the way quickly. 5 tenths is the gap between the Jamaican and the Cayman driver in Jaden Harrison and Mr. Ian Lance. This is now the desperation zone. Will Jaden be able to hold off the charging Toyota Gazoo Racing right behind him, who has been brought back to life here in the dying stages of this race? They still have more blue flags. Ian just reminding Mr. Harrison there that he is right there in the background, ready to pounce on any mistake, rotating that car. Jaden looks like those tires are falling off a cliff as the back end of that LMDH is just sliding around, but so does it go for Mr. Ian Lance there. Quick works of the steering wheel Looking at the sky, it's getting darker and darker. Matthew Titus comes off the racing line. Blue flags being shown for him in that BMW M4. And this time, blue flags working in Jaden's favor. Jaden dispatching them very quickly. This battle has been extremely fun to watch from the beginning now to the end. 5 minutes remaining. 1.2 seconds is the gap between the two drivers. Jaden now, this is where he has to focus. This is where he has to keep his head clear. And just keep that battle going. But as we've been talking, my apologies, ladies and gentlemen, Emilia-Romagna Wallace has lost out to Vincent da Silva. So it's a complete role reversal of last week. Kurt Moss was dominating last week and found himself in the grass, which pushed Mr. Massive. Ooh, late on the brakes is Mr. Wallace, my apologies. But pushed Mr. Massive from first all the way down to third, if I remember correctly. This week, Emilia-Romagna Wallace was dominating. Now sits in third. Vince da Silva being the best victor out of everybody, finding his way into P2. Still on the hunt for Mr. Kurt Moss. 4 minutes remaining. Vince has been on the attack for most of today. Might be on the defense because Mr. Wallace has been rapid here this evening, all evening. Has some work to do nonetheless, but still looking like he can maybe throw a little bit of late drama here in the evening. Not sure what had happened. Was it an incident? Was it just him losing it on his own? I'm sure we'll hear about it at the end of the race. But that being said, so Wallace has now 3 minutes and 30 seconds to go to catch back up to the Panamanian driver in front of him, who does go a little bit off track. That will give Mr. Wallace a little bit of an edge to catch back up. And this is going to be a battle to the end as he now looks on the outside. Vince has to go defensive. Who is late on the brakes? Is that a switcheroo attempt? Yes, it is, but guess who parks it on the apex? Vincent da Silva knew what was going to come from the Jamaican driver and just put that car exactly where he needed to do and said, hey boy, cool off and cool down. This battle is going to get even more intense as the racing continues. 3 tenths to gap between the two. Emilia looking like a clever old sly fox. But Vince is one who is very experienced in these kind of racing. Very good defense so far, and will be definitely trying to keep that Jamaican behind him. He is now in a sandwich between two Jamaican friends that are very close. I'm sure would love to be working together to make this battle work out for the Jamaicans in the long run. But Vince is one who will definitely be putting that car exactly where he needs to make sure he doesn't run or lose out to any of the two. Emilia-Romagna Wallace not giving this one up though, ladies and gentlemen. The roles have now been reversed, and guess who gets the best of everything is Mr. Massive, because he's just going to be pulling away as best as he can to keep away from this battle behind him. Maybe looking in the rear view, just like what we saw with Daniel Velez last night in the Caribbean Touring Car Championship. Daniel was leading by quite some margin and ended up watching the race in the background. Almost lost control of the car, but right now we have 1 minute and 20 seconds remaining, and Emilia-Romagna is just holding the rear end of that Chevrolet Corvette, my apologies. Looking to see where he can gain an advantage and gain back at least P2 in the ending of this race. Last week had quite some battles. He's back at it again this week, chasing down the likes of the Panama driver. Looks on the outside, or on the inside, my apologies. Maybe throwing a dummy to throw the likes of the driver in front of him off of his game. Right now, not enough. Vince again, a clever old fox meets sly little nephew. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, we have 30 seconds remaining. So we will have one more lap of racing. As you see, Jaden Harrison there overtaking the two. And right behind him is Mr. Lance, who will get into the mix of this by the time they reach the first corner. And Mission, I'm sure, is hoping that he would just wait it out, as this is his battle as well. And Ian Lance just chasing. There he goes. And a right way to do things. Loses out on his own race, but still doesn't destroy the race for the drivers in front of him. So good racing there for Mr. Lance. But well, that's being said, Michelle Wallace and Vince De Silva, I heard a little bit of contact. And there you see Michelle backing out of the race to allow the Panama driver to get back into the mix. But guess what? That puts Javier as well into the mix. Javier now looking on the rear end of that BMW in front of him and trying to see where he can get an advantage, maybe to help out his teammates. And now Michelle is in the sandwich. Michael Charles now overtakes Javier. Vincent still having to defend. 5/10 is the gap between himself and Mr. Michelle Wallace. Michelle hasn't given this one up yet. But that being said, ladies and gentlemen, as we come around the final corner, the man who has not put one foot wrong from the beginning of the race starts in P2, finishes off in P1. Huge drive there by Jaden Harrison to come around to win this race. Sprint number 2. Jaden Harrison finishes off in P1. An astounding victory there. Gets a little bit drifty. We won't finish to see what happened there. Ian Lance finishes off in P2. Michael Charles comes around the final as well to finish off in P3. Irvin Plummer should be a little bit further out. But right now, Kurt Moss comes around for the GT3 class to win this race in P1. Vince Silva by almost 1.3 seconds. Michelle Wallace lost out. Heads into the pits. Javier Brandao in P3. Michelle Wallace in P4. Matthew Titus comes around now. What's going on with Michelle? Did he get a drive-through? So he now sits in P4. Race hasn't been over for him as yet. Has to exit the pits and pass the line. Yes, he does. P4 goes to Mr. Michelle Wallace. 1 Jamaicans, 2 Panama drivers. Michelle Wallace in P4. Matthew Titus in P5. Rich Dyer in P6. Ricardo Swabe in P7. Joe Santamario in P8. What a race here this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Jaden Harrison, the winner of the LMDH. Kurt Moss winning for the GT3 class. Jaden, Ian Lance, and Michael Charles takes the top 3. Kurt, Vince, and Javier takes the top 3 for the GT3. This has been an epic evening of racing, ladies and gentlemen. And we look forward to round 3 next week. Stay tuned to our social medias for more information. Looking forward to seeing what can come. I'm going to open the chat to the drivers and the cool down room.
Right. Messed up on one, so that's what happened.
Yeah, it was fun to race too with Kurt and Wallace and Brandao.
Actually, I think our whole quality is better with all the different cars. It's like who could get the clean lap.
Please, no.
Yeah.
Private is more quickly. Prefer private.
The hypercar is so fun.
Dude, during qualifying, I was like, okay, my brake issues are done. They're in the past. And I set that lap. I was like a second and a half off the pace. And I was like, oh my God, my problems are solved. And then no, y'all are going like 2 seconds a lap faster than me during the race. I don't know where y'all find it.
Hypercar go bear.
Okay,
That's
later,
pretty
guys.
turn.
Good racing. Bye.
Take
Bye
care.
bye. Is there a way to save the replays on this, or there is no replay?
No,
It
there are replays.
saves automatically.
Oh,
It's in the home at the home screen. You go look about settings. It's there.
mhm. Oh, I see it. Yeah. Okay. Is it save infinite or it deletes as it fills up?
Oh, I can only answer one question correctly at a time.
Oh, Mr. Titus, I don't know what happened there. Sorry for the bunks.
I'm sorry?
Steven?
Oh, they change the button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Steven, the HUD for LMU is so fun. It's so good.